Jane, if you had to choose, you saw that debate Madison had at the top of the show there, whether or not Janet Yellen is correct or the Larry Summers is correct, and a few others that are worried about this amount of stimulus. If you had to choose, what side would you be on?
Well, you see, it's all to do with timing because theoretically, I would normally be on Summers' side. It's not about he's not against spending the money per se. He's just saying you've got to be careful how you spend it. But the problem is, it's to do with timing. And Yellen's looking at the labour data. She's very, very concerned. Always has been about underemployment, for instance. She's looking at that and saying, look, if you delay, you're going to make things worse. And in order for Summers perhaps thinking to come through into policy, it needs a lot of thinking. It needs a lot of time, and that's the dilemma, really. It's again all about timing. So perhaps in this sort of scenario, maybe Yellen is right. Maybe if we wait and try and get the policy spot on in the way that Summers is suggesting, well, we could be too late, and we could see more scarring through the economy. So I think it's a very difficult balance.
Jane, if we take the view that inflation could come, some people are talking about a catch-up spike in the second quarter, then the Fed plays catch-up, but the market reprices rate hikes. Does that turn the dollar stronger in the second half of the year? Is there a risk the Fed reprices on the back of an inflation spike?
Well, you know, this is really interesting. And of course, this is what we've been seeing coming through the dollar really since the start of the year. I mean, certainly last week, ahead of that disappointing payrolls data, many people say, well, look, the dollar is the reflation trade right now. But of course, got to bear in mind that the reasons that the dollar's performed better this year than last year is perhaps because the market started this year very short of the dollars, and the fundamentals, particularly with the Biden stimulus, have changed enough for people to really question that. Now, if we sound out what the Fed has been saying, Powell has been saying, and he will talk again later this week, or at least have an opportunity to talk. He's been very, very cautious, saying don't get ahead of yourselves. We've got a long way to go. And I think as we go through this quarter, whilst we're still optimistic about vaccines, etc., what we are going to see is quite a lot of disappointing economic data, because in Q1 we know that we're still really in the midst of this crisis. So I think the market is in danger of perhaps getting ahead of itself, and the Fed is going to continue to push back on that at least for 6 months, maybe longer. So from that point of view, I think this is going to be a little bit of a choppy ride for the reflation trade.